Good morning, children. Welcome to another interesting session of physics webinar of Telangana State Model Schools. In the previous chapter of electric potential and capacitance, you have known that all charges, whether free or bound, were considered to be at rest. Charges in motion constitute electric current. The physical phenomena which is associated with the presence or flow of electrons is known as electricity. This you have already learned in your previous classes. The branch of physics which deals with charges in motion is called current electricity. Now we are in the unit of current electricity of second year. We have with us our presenter of the day, Sri D. Venkatramana Rao Garu, PGT Physics, Telangana Model School and Junior College, Elagandal, Karimnagar. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, madam.
Sir is going to present the entire unit of current electricity. A very interesting and important topic. Sir, please take over the session.
Thank you, madam. Good morning, children. I hope all of you are doing well. And in the previous concepts, we completed the concepts of waves and electricity, that is electrostatics part. And you have to understand the difference between what is electrostatics and that what we are going to discuss now, which is current electricity. So in your daily life, you might have seen many appliances or many domestic devices where you can use the concept of current electricity. So we are all going to learn how charges are going to flow inside a metallic conductors and what kind of laws they are going to obey. And already you learned some basic concepts in your lower classes, but we are going to learn the concepts in depth in our current session. So let us start, children. So our topic is current electricity, a very interesting topic, and you are going to get one long answer question, 8 marks question from this chapter. So follow it carefully, children. So first, what is current electricity? So in the previous classes, we discussed static electricity, that means electrostatics. So now we have to understand what is actually the current electricity means. If charges are at rest, that is said to be the branch which deals with the charges at rest is electrostatics. So we completed electrostatics topics in the previous sessions. Electric field, electric charges at rest, and then electric potential, capacitance. In all these situations, the charges which are considered to be at rest, whether they are bounded or free electrons. So charges at rest is electrostatics. So you can see the properties of conductors. We dealt very vast topics we discussed in the electrostatics topic. Now coming to charges which are in motion. Strictly speaking, if they are moving with constant velocity, I think all of you are familiar with uniform velocity. That means they are not accelerating. If the charges are in motion, that means charges are moving, then that is current electricity. So charges are at rest is electrostatics, that already we completed, and charges in motion, that is yet to be complete. So the topic is current electricity. So we are going to discuss the present topic, current electricity, in our session today. Right, children? So if charges moves with acceleration, if they are moving with constant velocity, that means steady current. If the charges are accelerates, then that leads to magnetic effects of electric currents. Okay. So you can see the flow of charges in a conductor. So in this animation, you can see how the charges are going to flow inside a metallic conductor after the application of the potential difference that we are going to learn today. So you can see clearly how the charges are moving. In electrostatics, the charges will be at rest, whereas in current electricity, they are going to be in motion. So see children, in this video, you can see a lightning. So this is a very interesting natural phenomena where you can see the charges flow from the clouds to the earth through the atmosphere. So through atmosphere, the charge is going to flow from the clouds to the earth. So the flow of charges in lightning is not steady. We can get a huge amount of current. So already you are familiar with this concept. You will get a huge amount of current which is not steady. Okay. So, but in our context, we are going to learn about the current which is steady. That means where you can see the electricity concepts. You can see in lot of devices, we can use the concept of electricity in our daily life. You can see television, radio, and computers. So microwave ovens, cars. So inside the cars, the battery is going to give the electricity, which is, we can call it as direct current. In our household power supplies, we are going to use alternating currents. So, you know the sources of energies, electrical energy. So power stations are the sources for the alternating currents and batteries are the sources for the direct current. So incandescent lights, you can see. So many number of devices are there where you can use the concept of electricity in our daily life. Electric iron, okay, flashlight, searchlight. So in all these things, we can use the concept of flow of charges. That is interesting. So we are going to use the concept of flow of charges that leads to electricity. So in all these appliances, we are going to use the concept of current electricity where the electric current is steady. That is important. So where the electric current is steady. So we are restricting ourselves to study about the current electricity, which is about the steady current, right? So overview of the chapter. That means what we are going to learn in this entire chapter. So introduction to current electricity. Then what is electric current? An electric current in conductors. Ohm's law. The drift of electrons and resistivity. So these are all the topics that what we are going to cover in our topics. Limitations of Ohm's law and resistivity of various materials and temperature dependence of resistivity. Electrical energy, power. As you know, basically the electric current, the source of electrical energy is the battery. So we are going to learn about battery, how it works and what is the energy that it is going to supply and about the power. And then the familiar topic for you, combination of resistors, you learned in class 10th, series combination and parallel combination. About the cell, electromotive force, internal resistance, cells in series parallel, Kirchhoff's laws, Wheatstone bridge, and meter bridge, potentiometer. So these are all the topics. So all are interesting topics we are going to cover in our lesson. So now what are the contents that we are going to discuss in this particular session? So what we are going to learn today? So current electricity, this is lesson 1. So in this lesson, I am going to introduce what is electric current, definitions of electric current, and then electric current in conductors, Ohm's law, and drift of electrons and resistivity, and limitations of Ohm's law. So these are the topics that what we are going to cover today. So dear children, in in this picture, already I told, so how the charge carriers, we can imagine. So you can imagine the charges are going to move. You can see the direction of motion of positive charges and negative charges is opposite. The positive charges, you can see positive charges are moving from plus to minus. That means from positive charges to negative charges. That means positive charges are attracted towards negative terminal and negative charges are attracted towards positive terminal. So this is an imaginary view where the charge carriers are going to move through a given cross section. So where A is the cross section, here you can see this is a particular cross section. So in this cross section, through that cross section inside a metal, all the charge carriers are going to move. So in this way, you can imagine how the charge carriers are going to move inside a metallic conductor. Now, first we'll try to define what is electric current and try to understand what is electric current. So you can see a conductor, particularly a cylindrical conductor I am taking here, and I considered particularly a cross section A, and charges are flowing through that cross section. So basically current is defined as flow of charges. Of course, in a given time, how much charge is flowing through a cross section. Okay, that cross section may be more or less. So it depends on the conductor. So basically current is what? Flow of charges through a cross section in a given time. So when electric charges are in motion, they constitute electric current. So this is the basic concept of electric current. When the charges are in motion, they constitute electric current. So the responsible phenomena for the electric current is the flow of charges. As long as the charges are in motion, there exists electric current. So the net amount of charge flowing across the area is Q. If the total amount of charge flowing through the given cross section is Q, that means Q charge is flowing in the given time interval T, then average current is given by the total charge flowing in a given time. So this is considered to be the average current. That means over a period of time, how much charge flown through the conductor. That means through a particular cross section. So average current is defined as charge upon time. I is equals to Q upon T, where I is the electric current, Q is the charge, and T is the time. So in a given time, if Q amount of charge is flowing through a conductor, then current is defined as Q by T. So this is a very important basic formula for electric current. I is equals to charge upon time. So you make a note of this formula, children. So this is the first formula that we'll learn in current electricity. This is the basic formula. I is equals to Q by T. Next, coming to some important points of electric current. So electric current is not always steady. Of course, in this session, we are going to study about steady currents only, but the currents are not always steady. That means they are going to vary with time. So if a charge delta Q, that means a very small amount of charge delta Q stands for small amount of charge. If a charge delta Q flows through a conductor in a very small time, delta T time, then current through that conductor. In the previous session, we discussed average current. That means for the entire time, how much charge flown through the conductor. Now here, a small amount of charge in a very small interval of time, small charge flows in a small time through a conductor. Then how to define the current? If current is not steady, then I is equals to limit delta t tends to 0. So already you are familiar with limits and continuity. So limit delta t tends to 0. That means it is not 0, it is tending to 0. When delta t is very, very small, then delta q by delta t is known as the instantaneous current at that time. So I is equals to dq by dt. So the instantaneous current is given by dq by dt. So we have to differentiate current with respect to time. That means charge is a function of time. Then I is equals to dq by dt. So this is the formula that we can use if current is not steady. So you are going to get problems related to this formula in competitive examinations. So as far as IP is concerned, I is equal to Q by T. Average current is enough, but for competitive examinations, we need a knowledge on the instantaneous current also. So they'll give the charge and we have to find the electric current. So this is the definition of the current when the current is not steady. Instantaneous current is dq by dt, where I is instantaneous current, dq by dt is the rate of change of charge with respect to time. And as you know, I is equals to q by t is the formula for the average current. Let us try to find the units. So what are the units for electric current? So ampere is the unit for electric current in SI system. So after the name of the scientist, so ampere, the unit for electric current is ampere. And it is represented with capital letter A, and ampere is equals to coulomb per second. As you know, the formula charge by time, so charge unit are coulomb and the unit for time is seconds. So ampere is coulomb per second. So 1 ampere is equals to 1 coulomb per 1 second. So anyhow, we are going to define what is actually ampere in moving charges and electromagnetism. Because electricity and magnetism are interrelated, they are considered to be the same branches, electromagnetism. So we are going to define what is actually ampere in moving charges chapter. Okay, so as far as this electric current is concerned, we can define ampere as coulomb per second. That means if 1 coulomb charge flows in 1 second, that current is said to be 1 ampere. So it is a scalar quantity. This is interesting thing. Electric current is going to have magnitude and direction. Though it has magnitude and direction, it is a scalar quantity. This is interesting. Why? Because it is not going to follow vector addition. So the resultant current will be algebraic sum of the currents, and it is not the vector sum. So always currents are going to be added according to general algebra, not according to vector algebra. So if currents are making some angles, though we are going to add the currents according to general algebra. Okay. So you can see in the picture, some current, 11 amperes of current is coming to a point A. You can see children here. So 11 amperes of current is coming here, and that is going as 7 amperes and 4 amperes in different directions. So sum of 7 and 4 is 11 amperes. So it is general algebra. It is not going to follow a vector algebra. So anyhow, we are going to learn it detailedly in Kirchhoff's laws of electricity, right? We are going to learn detailedly why it is not a vector. And coming to an interesting information of order of magnitudes of currents. Though the unit of electric current is ampere, so we have wide range of domestic appliances where the range of amperes, what could be the range of the ampere? In domestic appliances, the range of ampere is going to be, that means the range of electric current is going to be some 0.1 ampere to 10 amperes range. And whereas the average lightning, it is going to be 20,000 amperes, a huge amount of electric current. The 20,000 amperes means it is a very high range of current. So we can have a very low range of current in terms of amperes in case of domestic appliances. In our computer screen or in your mobile phones, it will be in the order of 0.5 amperes. Okay, whereas in average lighting, we'll get 20,000 amperes. So such a huge current we'll get from the lightning. And in our nerves, in our body, sometimes we'll get electric shock. Is it right? So how much range of current is going to pass through our nerves? So that will be in the order of microamperes. So that is very small. So we have a very wide range of order of magnitudes of currents. In domestic appliances, it is very small. And in our nerves, it is even very small, in the order of microamperes. And in case of lightning, it is very high. So we can have different ranges of amperes in different situations. So you can imagine, so what is ampere? So ampere is the unit of current. So you can feel in domestic appliances, oh, this is the amount of current. So in lightning, you can get huge amount of current by seeing the unit. So with the magnitude, 20,000 amperes means it's a huge current. So our nerves are going to carry a very small amount of current because human body is going to have a very high resistance. Is it right? Now coming to the discussion of current density. So we discussed electric current is a scalar. Then is there any current or is there any quantity associated with current which is a vector? So current density is another quantity that we are going to learn here. See, in the diagram you can see a conductor whose length, breadth and height are given. You can see the view of the conductor. And we have a particular area of cross section here. So here this is the area of cross section B into H. You can see this is the phase where the current is going to enter. Then how can you define current density? So you can see with this, you can understand. So the current is going to move through that cross section, that is normal to the cross section. So this is the direction of the current. If electric current is going through the cross section, then current per unit cross sectional area. So how much current is going to pass through that given cross sectional area? That should be normal. So as shown in the figure, the current should flow through a given cross section perpendicularly. That is called current density. So current per unit cross sectional area. That means current upon area. So mathematically, it is given by the formula J is equals to current by area. So the mathematical formula for current density is current upon area, and current density is denoted with J, and units for current density are ampere per meter square. Because electric current is measured in amperes, you can see, and area is measured in square meters. So unit is ampere per meter square. This is about the current density, which is a vector. So the corresponding vector quantity in current electricity for the current is current density. And whereas current is a scalar quantity. It is a vector quantity. Current density is a vector quantity. So this is all about current density. Current density means current per unit area. Formula is current per area. Units are ampere per meter square. And it is a vector quantity. Now coming to what are the responsible charge carriers in case of conductors, in different conductors. So in case of solids, we are going to discuss mostly about the metals. So in case of solids, what are the responsible charge carriers? So they are the free electrons. So free electrons are the responsible charge carrier. That means which are moving are the free electrons. The charges which can move inside the metallic conductor are free electrons. And whereas in electrolytes, in case of liquids or electrolytes, the responsible charge carriers are positive and negative ions. So I think all of you are familiar. This you learned in chemistry. So positive and negative ions are the responsible charge carriers in case of an electrolyte. And now see, children. So in this diagram, you can find the difference. In this diagram, the right side diagram, you can see the random motion of the charge carrier. That means electrons are moving randomly. Some fixed lattice, that means what, fixed positive ions are there. The positive fixed ions, they are not going to move, whereas electrons are going to move randomly. So you can imagine how the electrons are going to move inside a conductor, though it is not connected to a battery. That is because of the temperature. So you can see clearly in this diagram. So if the conductor is not connected, this is a metallic conductor. This is the view of the flow of charges inside a conductor. You have to imagine this is the view of the electrons. You can see the fixed positive ions and as well as the moving electrons, and it is not connected to battery. So if there is no external electric field, that means we are not connected it to a battery, just it is a conductor. So there is no net motion of electrons through the conductor. But how they are moving, why the electrons are moving inside the metallic conductor? That is because of the temperature. Even at the room temperature also, they can vibrate, they can move. That motion is said to be a random motion. So in this situation, the net charge is said to be 0. So this is because this is happening all because thermal motion, that is motion because of temperature, and net charge is 0 in this case, and net current is also 0. Net charge is 0 means charge is not at all flowing. So net current is also 0. So what is the conclusion? If there is no external electric field, already you know about electric field. How we can achieve electric field? By connecting it to a battery. So there is no connection of battery, there is no external electric field, there is no net amount of charge, there is no current. And you can see, children, this is a conductor, and on applying the electric field, you can see positive plate is there and negative plate is there, plus Q and minus Q. You can see clearly this is a positive plate and this is a negative plate. Till it is not connected to battery, just this is a positive plate, a charged conducting positive plate, and this is a negative plate. And what happens if potential difference is applied by arranging a positive plate and a negative plate? And you know electric field is always directs towards negative charge. That means electric field direction is from positive to negative. So the direction of the electric field is from plus to minus. This is the direction you can see in the picture. So the direction of electric field is from positive to negative. So the electrons accelerated in a direction opposite to that of the electric field. So in which direction the electrons are going to accelerate? Electrons are going to have negative charge. Obviously, they have to move toward the positive charge. You can see electrons in the picture, and they are going to move towards the positive charge. So after positive and negative plates are connected to the metallic conductor, the electrons are going to move. You can see in the picture clearly, electrons are going to move toward the positive charge, and there they are going to neutralize. That means there is no further flow of charges. So this is very interesting point, children. So these electrons are going to move towards the positive charge, and at the positive plates, they are going to get neutralized. And after neutralization, there is no positive charge at that plate. So there is no further motion of electrons. That means in this case, only electrons are going to move only for a short interval of time. That means the flow of electrons is going to be not continued throughout. So what we have to do if we have to maintain a continuous supply of electrons? So if you want to make these electrons to flow continuously, then we have to connect it to a battery. That means power supply. If you connect it to a power supply, then these electrons are going to move continuously. Now you can see, children, so after connecting to the battery, how the charge carriers are going to behave. So this is the behavior of the charge carrier, that is electrons inside a conductor after connecting it to the battery. So there is no motion for the positive charges, only the electrons are going to move after the connection of the metallic conductor with the battery. So this is the situation after connecting the conductor to the battery. Before connecting, they are going to have the random motion. And after connecting, they are going to have an orderly motion. So the velocity of the electrons does not increase continuously. So already we learned the electrons are going to move with constant velocity. So how this constant velocity is going to attain? Because these are going to collide with the ions. You can see. So the negative charges are going to collide with the ions. After colliding, they are going to transfer the kinetic energy to the ion so that they can maintain a constant velocity. The reason is the charge carriers maintain the constant velocity because they can transfer the kinetic energy to the ions. So as a result of these collisions, these electrons are going to collide with ions. So electrons simply move with a small velocity. This is very important point. So after connecting to the battery, the electrons are going to move with a very small velocity, very small velocity, 0.07 millimeters per second, a very small velocity. That is after connecting it to the battery. So that velocity, that small velocity of electrons is known as drift of electrons. So electrons are going to move opposite to electric field and with a very small velocity, that is known as drift velocity, right? So before going to learn drift velocity, we should know what is mean free path. So already you have this concept in first year kinetic theory of gases also. There we considered mean free path of the gas molecules. So here we have to consider the mean free path of the electrons inside the metallic conductor. So you can see ions, the fixed positive ions, and the electron is going to collide with the positive ions and it is going to follow the different paths. After colliding, it is going to move in another direction. So the average distance the electron travels between collisions is called the mean free path. So how much average distance that it is going to cover between the two collisions. So once electron is going to collide with one positive ion and it deviates and again it collides with another ion. So what is the average distance that travel between collisions is known as mean free path. So this is the important 2 marks question. So what is the mean free path means? The average distance traveled by the electron between collisions is called mean free path. And mean free path means average distance. So we know the formula for the average distance is what? Speed into time. So it is the product of average speed and average time between the collisions. So it is the product of speed and time. So distance is equals to speed into time. And coming to drift velocity. So this is important topic. So as we discussed in the previous slide, so after connecting the metallic conductor to a battery, you can see the flow of electron. They are going to move with high speed. Now after connecting, they are going to move a relatively slow velocity. With slow velocity, that is known as drift velocity. So drift velocity can be attained only after connecting it to a battery. That means by providing electric field. So this is going to, the dotted path is after the application of the electric field. Slightly, actually, you can see in the diagram, the electron has to reach from A to B. The electron has to reach from A to B, but after the application of the electric field, it is going to reach from A to B dash, the dotted path. So the dotted path is going to indicates in which direction the electron is going to move after the connection of the battery. So you can see, children, B and B dash are along the same line. So B and B dash. So electron is going to slightly drifted. It has to reach actually B, and after the connection of the battery, it is reaching B dash. So this change is known as drift. This distance of change is known as drift. As you know, drift means what? There is a change, right? It has to reach, the electron has to reach B, but it is reaching to B dash. That is drift. So drift velocity means the average velocity of an electron attained in a material due to an electric field. So after the application of electric field, drift velocity is going to attain. So average velocity of an electron attained in a material due to an electric field is known as drift velocity. Now coming to a very important topic for today. So this is very, very important for examination and as well as competitive examinations, Ohm's law. So what is actually Ohm's law? I think all of you are familiar with Ohm's law that you learned in class 10th. So again, we are going to learn in depth. So you can see, so he is the scientist Ohm. So his contribution is there in defining the Ohm's law. So the electric current I flowing through the conductor, if I current is flowing through a conductor, is directly proportional to the potential difference V across the two ends of the conductor. So this is at constant temperature. That means as long as the temperature is constant, the electric current flowing through the conductor, till now we discussed how current is going to flow in a conductor. So the electric current flowing through the conductor is directly proportional to the potential difference. So already you learned voltage, potential difference in the previous chapter. So electric current is proportional to potential difference. This is at constant temperature. That means as potential difference increases, current also increases. So V is proportional to I. The V is potential difference and I is electric current. So this is the mathematical form of Ohm's law. V is proportional to I. V is equals to R into I. So if you want to replace the proportionality, so we have to take the proportionality constant. Here the proportionality constant is resistance R. So V is equals to R into I, where R is the resistance of that conductor. The constant of proportionality R is called the resistance of that conductor, for which we are defining the Ohm's law. So the Ohm's law mathematical form is voltage is proportional to electric current. Potential difference is proportional to current. So V is equals to R into I. That means as voltage increases, current also increases. Right? So you can understand this with an animation you can see here. Dear children, you can see in the picture, voltmeter is there to measure the potential difference, and ammeter is there to measure electric current, and this is a resistor. So I connected a resistance of 200 ohm. So you can see how the voltage is going to change with current. So if I increase the voltage, you can see children, I am increasing the voltage. If I increase the voltage, you can see the current is also increasing. You can see voltmeter and ammeter. You can come to know the difference. As voltage is increasing, current is also increasing. And if you decrease the voltage, with the decrease of the voltage, the current is also decreasing. So for the given values, we can find what is the current and what is the voltage for this particular resistance. So if you increase the voltage, current is increasing. And if you decrease the voltage, current decreases. So this is how we can define Ohm's law. So Ohm's law, where resistance is constant, that means resistance is constant of proportionality. Of course, we can change the resistance also, but for a given resistance, voltage is proportional to current, right? So this is how we can see the Ohm's law with the help of an animation, right? Now V is proportional to I, V is equals to R into I, where R is resistance. Now we'll discuss what is resistance detailedly. So you can see in the picture, they are the resistors. Anyhow, we are going to learn detailedly what is a resistor and how to find the resistance in coming sessions. For an idea, you can see this is a resistor. Okay. And what is actually a resistance? A resistance is defined for a conductor. That means the obstruction to the flow of electrons. So it has to obstruct the flow of electrons. The property of the conductor which opposes the free flow of electrons. That means resistance of a conductor means the obstruction to the flow of electrons. So it is going to obstruct the flow of electrons. It is going to oppose the flow of electrons. If electrons are flowing through a conductor, if the metallic conductor opposes the flow of electrons, if it opposes, then it is said to be resistance of that conductor. If resistance is more, obviously electric current will be less. So SI unit for resistance is ohm. So the unit for resistance is ohm. And the symbol is, this is the symbol to represent a resistance. And a very important point, so resistance depends on what factor the resistance of a conductor is going to depend. It is going to depend on the nature of the material. So nature of the material means what? For example, silver, copper, aluminum, these are the conductors. So different conductors are going to have different nature. So how can you define the nature? So as far as the conductor is concerned, the nature of the material means how many number of free electrons are there for given volume. So number of free electrons per given volume is considered to be the nature of the material. So resistance depends on the nature of the material. So from material to material, resistance changes. And coming to temperature, the resistance depends on the temperature also. So how it going to depends on the temperature, we will discuss detailedly. But meanwhile, so on what factors it depends means it depends on temperature and length of the conductor and area of cross section of the conductor. So these are the four factors which are going to influence the resistance. That means the resistance is going to depend on nature of the material, temperature, length of the conductor, and area of cross section. So now we'll see. So resistance depends on the length of the conductor. So as we know, the resistance is directly proportional to length. That means as the length of the conductor increases, the resistance also increases. So how it is going to depend on the length? So see children, we have a conductor here, a conductor with resistance R. You can see R is the resistance of the conductor and I is the current passing through the resistor. So you can see I current is passing through the given cross section, right? So here the potential difference maintained is V, right? Now what happens if another similar conductor is joined to the conductor? So if similar conductor is joined to the conductor, that means it is also maintaining a potential difference of V volts. So for the first conductor, potential difference is V, and for second conductor also potential difference is V. And same current is going to pass through the two conductors. The only difference is in the first case we have one conductor and the second case we have two conductors side by side. Same identical conductor, same length, you can see same length and same area. Now, if you define resistance for the first conductor, as you know, R is equals to V by I. According to Ohm's law, R is equals to V by I. And try to define it in the second case, R dash. Let us consider this resistance of the arrangement is R dash. So R dash is equal. So what is the voltage or potential difference in this case? V and V, V plus V, 2V. So the potential difference is 2V upon I. Current is same current is passing through the combination. And we can write it as 2 times 2 R because V by I is R. So as you learn, so V by I is equals to R. So R dash is equals to 2R. So R is the resistance of single conductor. R dash is the resistance of the two conductors. That means length is increased. Length is doubled. So resistance also increased. That means resistance is directly proportional to length. You can see children, R is proportional to L. So all the remaining quantities are constants. Temperature constant, area constant. Only length is increased. R is proportional to L. So you can write R1 by R2 is equals to L1 by L2. So if R1 by R2 is equals to L1 by L2, that means proportional resistance increases with length of the conductor. So if R is proportional to L, so mathematically in solving the problems, it is convenient for us to write R1 by R2 is equals to L1 by L2. So you can make a note of this, children. So with the help of this formula, you can solve the problems. Now resistance depends on area of cross section also. So we'll see how it is going to depend on area of cross section. Again, we have a conductor with V potential difference, that means connected to a battery, and area of cross section is A, through which current is passing, and length of the conductor is L. So now 1 upon the conductor. So one conductor is placed over the other conductor. That means potential difference is same for both the conductors. Same potential difference is maintained. But the current entering through the combination, is going to divide into two equal halves, because I current has to pass through the arrangement. So if current is splitting as I by 2 and I by 2, and area is also A by 2 and A by 2. If this arrangement, you can see clearly, in the first case, if resistance is V by I, in the second case R dash, resistance is equal to V by I by 2. The current passing through the each conductor is I by 2. So you can simplify it as 2 times to V by I. So R dash is equals to 2 times to V by I. That means R dash is equals to 2R. In this case also resistance is increased to 2 times, but area of cross section is decreased. In the first case we have an area A, whereas in the second case we have an area A by 2. So for A we have resistance R, and for A by 2 area we have a resistance 2R. That means area is decreased to half whereas resistance is doubled. That means it is inversely proportional. So as the area of cross section decreases, resistance increases. So you can see R is proportional to 1 by A. That means resistance is inversely proportional to area of cross section. A very important point. And mathematically, R1 by R2 is equals to A2 by A1. For inversely proportionality, we have to write reciprocal, right? R1 by R2 is equals to A2 by A1. So this is how the resistance depends on area of cross section. Now with these dependence, that means resistance is according to the geometrical conditions, resistance depends on length and area. So we are going to find some interesting facts with this. So we are going to define what is resistivity or specific resistance with the knowledge of the length and area of cross section dependence. So as you know, resistance is proportional to L and R is proportional to 1 by A. So we can write by combining these two proportionalities, R is proportional to L by A, length and area of cross section. So it can be written as R is equals to rho into L by A. So after replacing the proportionality, I am writing a proportionality constant rho into L by A. So R is equals to rho into L by A. So where rho is known as resistivity, a very important quantity in current electricity. R is resistance and rho is resistivity. So R is equal to rho into L by A. Mathematical form of resistance, R is equal to rho into L by A in terms of resistivity. Now coming to the formula for resistivity, with R is equal to rho into L by A, you can write rho as, making rho as subject, rho is equals to R into A upon L. So with this we can find units. So what are the units? So for resistance, units are ohm and area meter square and length meter. So after substituting it, the respective units, you will get the units for resistivity as ohm meter. And rho is equals to R. So specific resistance or resistivity is equals to R, and mathematically rho is equals to R when area of cross section and length are 1 unit. So here, if you take area to be 1 meter square and length to be 1 meter in this formula, so you can write rho is equals to R. So specific resistance is a particular resistance of a conductor for 1 meter square area and 1 meter length. So that is the reason why resistivity is not going to depend on length and area of cross section. A very important point. Specific resistance is independent of the geometrical conditions of the conductor. It is not going to depend on length and area. Resistance depends on length and area, but resistivity, it's not going to depend on length and area. So this is important point. Resistance of a material per unit length and per unit cross section area. This is resistivity. You can see clearly in the above statement, if you take A as 1 and L as 1, specific resistance is equal to resistance. So this is the definition of resistivity. Resistance of a material per unit length and per unit cross section area is specific resistance. And very important point, resistivity depends on the nature of the material and temperature. Only on these two factors it depends, but not on its dimensions. The specific resistance or resistivity is independent of length and area. It depends only on the nature of the material and temperature. So in this slide, you can have a very important concept, that is resistivity definition and the mathematical form of resistivity. You can make a note of the formula and on what factors the resistivity depends. And with this, with the help of a numerical, you can understand the concept of dependence of resistance and resistivity. So with this, you can understand the concept clearly. So you can see, children, a 100 ohm thick wire is stretched so that its length becomes 3 times. Assuming that there is no change in its density on stretching, calculate the resistance of the stretched wire. So read the problem. A 100 ohm thick wire is stretched so that its length becomes 3 times. Assuming that there is no change in its density. There is no change in its density means, so density is not changing, it is constant. So calculate the resistance of the stretched wire. So after stretching, what is the resistance of the wire? So see, children, so we are going to solve this problem. Now, first you try to write what are the given quantities. So given quantities, resistance is given as 100 ohm. The resistance of a thick wire, a wire is given. The resistance of this wire is given as 100 ohm. And initially consider its length to be L. And length becomes 3 times. The same conductor, we are not comparing it with other conductor. Length becomes 3 times after stretching. So after stretching, length becomes 3 times means it is going to become thin. And length becomes 3L, 3 times to length. Then if the resistance of this is 100 ohm, then what is the resistance of this one? Let it be R dash. So how much? So we can make use of the concept, that is R is equals to rho into L upon A. So this is the formula for the resistance. So as you know, resistance is equals to rho, specific resistance, into length upon area. So here it is given that there is no change in density. So here we have to discuss only about the physical quantity length. So if I multiply and divide with length to make equivalent fractions, I am multiplying and dividing with length. So R is equals to rho into L into L. So you can see L into L is L square by area into length. So area of cross section into length, it is in the shape of a cylinder. So area of cross section into length is going to be volume. Okay. So this is equals to rho into L square by, we know the density is mass by volume. So volume is equals to mass by density. So you can write volume as mass by density. So see, children, rho L square, and I'm writing volume as mass per density, mass by density. So in the problem, it is given that density is constant. Density is constant. As you know, mass of the conductor is also constant. And the specific resistance or resistivity is constant because it does not depend on the geometrical conditions. So in the formula, rho is constant, density is constant, mass is constant. So resistance depends only on the square of the length. So this is important. So R is proportional to L square. So in case of a wire is stretched, then resistance is proportional to L square. In the previous concept we learned resistance is proportional to length. That is only in comparison. If you compare the two resistances, then R is proportional to L. If you stretch the wire, the same wire if you stretch, then R is proportional to L square. So R is proportional to L square means what? R1 by R2 is equals to L1 square by L2 square. So most of the children will do the mistake in this problem. They'll take the directly proportional. So R1 by R2 is equals to L1 is L and L2 is 3L. Length is tripled. So L by 3L whole square. So what is R1? R1 is given as 100 ohm. By R2 we have to find is equals to, I can cancel L and L here. So 1 by 3 whole square means is 1 by 9. So therefore, R2 is equals to 900 ohm. So this is the answer for this question. You can see, children. So R is proportional to L square because it is stretched. So you are not supposed to apply R is proportional to L. So here R is proportional to L square. So that's why resistance, now the new resistance after stretching is 900 ohm. So this is the concept of the stretching of a wire, right? So while revising, you can understand the problem. Now, meanwhile, I am erasing this problem. Now coming to another problem. In this case also wire is stretched. If a wire is stretched to double its original length, read this problem carefully. If a wire is stretched to double its original length without loss of mass, again mass is not changing, how will the resistivity of the wire be influenced? Without solving the problem, we can answer the question. How will the resistivity of the wire be influenced? So resistivity is not going to depend on the length. Though length is doubled, tripled, or increased to 4 times or halved, it is not going to depend on the geometrical conditions. So the answer is there will be no change in the resistivity. A very important conceptual question. So why there is no change in resistivity? Because the resistance depends on the length, but resistivity does not depend on the length. So the answer for this question is no change in resistivity, because resistivity depends only on nature. So that nature is not changing. So it does not depend on length. So the answer for this question is it remains constant. So this is a conceptual topic, so that on which factors the resistivity depends, you can understand from this example. Now coming to another quantity, conductivity. So these are some other quantities that we have to learn in our session. Conductivity means the reciprocal of resistivity. Already we learned what is resistivity. So the reciprocal of resistivity is known as conductivity, and it is denoted by sigma. So sigma is 1 by resistivity, reciprocal of resistivity, that is L by RA. In terms of length and area of cross section, it is L by RA. So the formula for resistivity, conductivity sigma is L by RA. So length is meters, ohm and meter square. So with the help of these units, we can write it as ohm meter inverse. So ohm meter whole inverse, we can say it as Siemens meter inverse. So this is the unit for conductivity. So we are not going to discuss much about conductivity in physics. So it has more importance in chemistry. So anyhow, you are going to learn it in chemistry, conductivity, right? The reciprocal of resistivity is conductivity. Now, the important topic, a very important topic, relation between drift speed and current density. So already we learned what is drift speed. Drift speed means what? A very slow velocity of the electrons. A constant, a very slow velocity of the electrons after connecting it to electric field. And current density means current per area. So take a conductor, and X, Y are the two ends of the conductors. The length of the conductor is L, and XY is the length of the conductor. You can see in the diagram. So XY is the length of the conductor. So as you know, the length, that means displacement, is equals to velocity into time. So in a small interval of time dt, so if you consider the electrons are moving with drift velocity. So drift velocity into time. So xy is the length. So length is equal to velocity into time. And volume of the conductor. So how to calculate the volume of the conductor? So we have a cylindrical shaped conductor here. So we know volume of the cylinder, area into length. So we have area of cross section A and length already in the above step we have a length here, right? So length is equals to drift velocity into time. That is equals to A into drift velocity into time. Now number of electrons contained in this length. So how many number of electrons are there? So it is going to consist a very huge number of electrons because it contains many number of atoms. Each atom is going to have its free electrons. So how many number of electrons in the given length or in a given length xy is n into A into Vd into dt. Multiply with n. So number of electrons contained in the length. We are multiplying with n, where n is the number of electrons per given volume. Now what is the charge? How to calculate the charge? How much charge is flowing? So every step is interrelated. So stepwise you can see length of the conductor, then volume, then number of electrons, then after that charge. So charge means what? N into E. We learned in the electrostatics, charge is quantized. So what is charge? Charge is equals to plus or minus Ne, N into E, where E is charge of electron. So here electrons are flowing. So the total charge is N. This is number of electrons into E, N into E. So if you will get Ne into drift velocity into A into dt. This is all mathematics. And as you know, I is equal to dq by dt. We defined already instantaneous current is equal to dq by dt in our earlier session. So if you substitute all the values and finally you will get I is equals to Ne into drift velocity into A. So we can write I is equals to NEA into drift velocity. The very important formula for competitive examinations. This is very important for JEE exams and MCET exams. The problems based on this formula, they'll ask directly. Okay. So here we can have a formula for current and drift velocity. I is equals to NEA VD. So I is equals to, you can see NE, area of cross section, into drift velocity. If I divide area of cross section with current, I by A, if I divide area with current, I by A is equals to NE into drift velocity. So I by A is known as current density. So current density J is equals to NE into drift velocity. So this is drift velocity. So I by A is NEVD, where V is drift velocity. So as you know, I by A is equals to current density. So this is how we can relate between drift velocity and current. Now, in the earlier slides and in the earlier session, we discussed what is Ohm's law. And now we have some limitations of Ohm's law. Limitations of Ohm's law means in which situations Ohm's law is not valid, in which situations Ohm law we cannot apply. So that we are going to learn. So the limitations of Ohm's law, a very important topic. Ohm's law is not a fundamental law. Ohm's law is not a fundamental law of nature like Newton's laws of motion and laws of thermodynamics. We have Newton's first law, second law, third law, and first law of thermodynamics, second law of thermodynamics, zeroth law. So these are all the fundamental laws of nature. But whereas Ohm's law is not a fundamental law, it is just an empirical relation between the quantities, voltage and current. So it is in fact an empirical description of a property shared by many materials. So many materials are going to share the different proportionalities between voltage and current. So it is not a natural fundamental law. It is just an empirical relation. That is the first point of limitation of Ohm's law. All the Ohm's law is valid for the different materials, and some materials are there where the proportionality of V and I does not hold. That means proportionalities of V and I, always it does not hold for some kind of materials, especially in electronic circuits, where the proportionality of V and I does not hold good. So in case of semiconductors, so V and I proportionality is not going to hold good. So you can see in these diagrams, the dotted line indicates the variation is proportionality. The V is proportional to I. In the first picture, you can see voltage is proportional to current, the dotted line. But this line, the blue color line, is slightly deviating from the proportionality, directly proportionality. So in some situations, there the Ohm's law, that means the proportionality is going to cease after some time. So that deviation is known as limitation of Ohm's law. And in the below picture, you can see the proportionality is not directly proportional. So it is an exponential function. So you can see a curve between voltage and current. It is not a straight line. So the voltage is not proportional to current in those cases. So in all the situations, voltage is not proportional to current. Though voltage is proportional to current, but it is not going to follow a linear variation, not a straight line variation. If it obeys a straight line variation, they are ohmic conductors. The voltage current variation is not a straight line. If it is a curve, this is non-ohmic conductors. In the first case, voltage ceases to be proportional to current. And in the second case, the relation between voltage and current depends on the sign of the voltage. In positive sign, it is going to have one kind of behavior, and in negative sign, another kind of behavior. So this you are going to learn detailedly in semiconductors, right? So in case of diodes, this deviation is going to take place. And limitations of Ohm's law. So this kind of deviation is also there in kind of some case of materials, especially in electronic circuits. So here, materials and devices not obeying Ohm's law are widely used in electronic circuits, where you can use these non-ohmic conductors. They are used in electronic circuits. So the relation between V and I is not unique. That is important. Okay? That means it has different values. So children, so we'll try to recap what we learned in this session today. So we introduced electric current and electric current in conductors, Ohm's law, and drift of electrons and resistivity, and the limitations of Ohm's law. And you try to answer some questions. So after the completion of the lesson, you can answer these questions. Define the mean free path of electron in a conductor. State Ohm's law and write its mathematical form. Define resistivity or specific resistance, not resistivity actually. Define resistivity or specific resistance. And if voltage V applied across a conductor increased to 2V, then drift velocity of electrons, how the drift velocity of electrons changes. And if two wires of equal length, one is of copper, the other manganese, has the same resistance, which wire is thicker? So this is very important conceptual question. You try to answer this question. And this is a problem. Drift speed is given. And though drift speed is very small, but we can still obtain a large amount of current in metals. Why? Those the materials drift speed is very small, they are going to move with a very slow velocity. how we can still obtain a large amount of current in the metals. So this is about the questions that you have to answer after the completion of this class. So I hope you understand the concept of resistance, Ohm's law, and all these. Thank you for this session, and we will continue with another interesting session in the next class. So thank you, madam. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. It was really a wonderful session. It a good start and good introduction about current electricity, the various concepts related to current electricity. What is electric current? What is drift velocity? What is mean average free path? And
Yes,
particularly about Ohm's law. And children, when sir was saying that, mentioning that Ohm's law is empirical, what do you empirical mean? Empirical means it is based on observations. It doesn't have any proper theory, but it is based on observations or experimentations or the various readings. So the constant, the proportionality between a potential difference and current is given by Ohm, and it is Ohm's law. As sir was mentioning, it is empirical, means it is based on observations. So it is not the basic law like what like a universal law of gravitation or like some like that. It is not a basic law because it is only based on empirical observations or the fundamental observations which are done in a laboratory. So based on that, this is developed, and it is very important. Ohm's law is very important in perspective of academics as well as your examination point of view. It is very important and has wide applications. So the various other concepts related to current electricity will be discussed in the next session. Thank you, sir, for such a beautiful presentation.
Thank you,
Children, once again, revisit this video. If you have any seek any clarifications, you can prepare your notes again and again, revisit to have further clarifications. Still, if you have any doubts, you can write it in the comment section. Sir will be available to address your queries. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, madam.